Imagine a single night taking down $1 billion drug empire. This is the story of how Houston's underworld crumbled in just one night. It started with a whisper, a tip so small it could have been ignored. But the right people heard it, and suddenly, the gears of justice began to turn. By midnight, the city's streets were alive with movement. Unmarked cars rolling out, agents moving in silence, and a plan so tight it left no room for error. The kingpins thought they were untouchable. They'd built their empire on fear and money, but they never saw this coming. One by one, the raids hit. Warehouses emptied, safe houses fell, and the men who thought they ruled the night found themselves staring down the barrel of justice. By dawn, the streets were quiet again. The empire was gone, and the city breathed a little easier. All because one night changed everything. The operation was massive, one of the largest in recent memory. At 2:45 a.m., under the cover of darkness, hundreds of agents moved in. FBI, ICE, and DEA all working together, their vehicles rolling in silent formation. The Sunset Crossing apartment complex, a sprawling maze of buildings, was about to be hit hard. Teams fanned out, each with a specific target, each with a role to play. Doors were breached, voices called out in command, and within minutes, the entire place was locked down. This wasn't just a raid, it was a statement. The kind of operation that sends a message. No one was too big to touch, no place too hidden to escape. And by the time the sun came up, the complex would be turned inside out. Every corner searched, every lead chased. This was the full weight of the law coming down. The sun hadn't even cracked the horizon when the first black vans rolled in, silent as shadows. 50 SWAT teams, each one a well-oiled machine of tactical precision, moved like ghosts through the maze of shipping containers and rusted warehouses. This wasn't just another bust. It was the takedown of the biggest drug empire the Gulf Coast had ever seen. At the helm was Captain Maria Vasquez, a woman who'd spent the last decade dismantling cartels, one piece at a time. She'd seen the bodies, the wrecked lives, the way this operation poisoned everything it touched. Tonight, it ended. Beside her, Agent Daniel Reeves, fresh out of Quantico but sharp as a blade, adjusted his earpiece. He'd been chasing this lead for months, and now it was all coming to a head. Inside the main warehouse, the kingpin himself, Rafael Mendoza, sat at a desk stacked with cash and ledgers. His empire stretched from Houston to New Orleans, a web of corruption so deep even the cops had to watch their backs. But Rafael wasn't worried. He had eyes everywhere, and no one moved on his turf without him knowing. Then, the first flashbang went off. The walls shook and Rafael's smirk faded. They were here. The reckoning had come. The cartel wasn't just some small-time operation. No. This was El Fantasma's empire, a machine so well-oiled it made governments look slow. Over $1 billion in drugs, pills, powder, you name it, flooded into America like water through a broken dam. Houston, Chicago, New York, didn't matter where you were. Their product was there on the streets, in the clubs, even in the quiet suburbs where people thought they were safe. El Fantasma didn't just run a business. He ran a shadow economy, one that touched more lives than most would ever realize. And the scary part? It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about control. For months, they'd been living double lives, sleeping in truck cabs, hauling cargo under the cover of night, and blending in with the rough crowd at the docks. The agents had become ghosts in plain sight, their real identities buried under layers of grease-stained coveralls and fake paperwork. One was a trucker with a laugh too loud and a knack for fixing engines. Another a dock worker who never complained about the long shifts. And then there were the enforcers, men who carried themselves like they'd seen too much and didn't care to see anymore. They'd earned trust the hard way, taking hits, moving product, and keeping their mouths shut. The network thought they were just part of the machine, cogs in a system that ran on silence and loyalty. But every late-night run, every whispered conversation in the back of a warehouse, every handshake that lingered a second too long, was another piece of the puzzle falling into place. The agents were close now, so close they could almost taste the moment it would all come crashing down. But one wrong move, one slip, and they'd be the ones buried under the wreckage. The operation, codenamed Eclipse Dawn, was a 2-year joint effort using cutting-edge surveillance to map the cartel's operations. It started as a whisper in the shadows, a quiet gathering of intel from informants and intercepted communications. Over time, it grew into something bigger, a relentless push to uncover every hidden thread of the organization. Teams worked around the clock, piecing together patterns, tracking movements, and building a web of evidence that stretched across borders. The goal was clear: dismantle the cartel from the inside out. And after 2 long years of meticulous planning and execution, Eclipse Dawn finally cast its light on the darkest corners of the criminal underworld. The operation was massive, unlike anything we'd ever seen. Teams moved in sync across the city, hitting over 200 spots all at once. Warehouses packed with crates, stash houses tucked in quiet neighborhoods, even high-end condos with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. And then there were the underground bunkers, hidden beneath layers of concrete and steel, places most people didn't even know existed. Every corner of the operation was covered, every angle accounted for. This wasn't just a raid. It was a full-scale takedown, years in the making, unfolding
all right,
all at
thank
once.
you all for coming out today. We think that this is a very important issue, and I flew down from Washington because I think that this is so significant. And I very much appreciate your being here along with the people who are standing behind me. Every day, tons of chemicals that are used to create synthetic drugs like methamphetamine and fentanyl are shipped from China to Mexico in China's undeclared war against America and her citizens.
Tonight, charges have been unsealed in a massive pharmaceutical drug bust worth $1.3 billion.
It was a sophisticated system with prescription drug distributors allegedly funneling drugs like oxycodone into Houston pill mills. Sherman Chow sat down with the Drug Enforcement Administration for the details and learned how Houston was an intended destination.
Yeah, we are considered a hot zone for pharmaceutical opioids on the black market because of our big freeways that go north-south, east-west. That all allows for easy distribution. This investigation began in 2019, targeting distributors of opioids and other commonly abused pharmaceutical drugs. The distributors buy their drugs legally from Big Pharma, then ship them to Houston pill mills, where the drugs were sold using illegal prescriptions. 3 Houstonians pled guilty to distributing and dispensing controlled substances. Each face up to 20 years in prison.
The cartel's stronghold crumbled without a single shot fired, because the real battle had been won long before, in the shadows of data and deception. By the time the sun rose, the operation was over. The kingpins were in custody, their networks unraveled, their empire reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale.